I'm sorry that Senator Harbin held us up, but
Promise not to do it again, Mr. Chair.
I won't,
good.
I won't let that happen again.
Well, we'll get you to say a prayer and maybe you can ask forgiveness
For you or for me?
for all of us.
All of us, okay. We'll do it.
Forgiveness.
Okay. Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for love. We thank you for your forgiveness and ask, oh Father, that you would bless this meeting, give us wisdom and discernment as we represent and deal with the issues for the citizens of Georgia. And we'll thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Senator Goodman, if you'll present your bill, do you want to do it from up here?
Ask him where he's been.
Huh?
Ask him where he's been.
I know where he's been. You gonna do it from there? Certainly. I don't know what number you are.
Yes.
All right. Floor is yours, sir.
All righty. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just bring before you a Senate Bill 209, and my some of my local superintendents and my local RISA asked me to bring this bill forward, and all we're asking for is an actuarial study. Mr. Buster Evans is here that he can answer any detailed questions about this, but we are this bill would allow people who are public school employees to be able to participate in teacher retirement. And so our superintendents, they feel like it would help with retention. We're talking about lunchroom staff, custodians. I don't think bus drivers would probably qualify because you have to have at least 30 hours a week. But that's what this bill does.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of the author? Mr. Evans, did you want to come forth? Did you have anything you wish to add, sir?
I'll be glad to make a few comments or answer questions, whichever you prefer, Mr. Chairman.
Well, make some comments and then maybe that'll stir some questions.
Well, we'll do that. So first of all, we always have to ask the question of why do we want to do this? And the senator has indicated is a recruitment and retention bill. So that's what the intent of this to do. Largely for, as I see it, both as we've talked to our employers as well as in my former life experience, largely, especially for some skilled work areas. Give you some examples: diesel mechanics and HVAC technicians and electricians who oftentimes can be plucked off from a local school district. When you have a new plant come in, when, somebody buys up a new tractor dealership or a mom and pop HVAC company is bought out by private equity. And this type of provision, our employers believe that would allow them to have greater retention and recruitment abilities, allowing them to have greater stability in their workforce. This bill basically gives an option. It would not be a requirement. Some people would choose to go toward the TRS side. Some may simply choose to simply stay in the ERS, may make economic sense. Mr. Potvin and I both have had conversation about this, and we realize that for all of these people, once they get ready to make a decision like this, there would probably need to be an educational component since it is an irrevocable decision, and we would want to make sure that they're making the best decision for them in their life of their career. So that's the gist of this. There's been a lot of conversation about this over the last 2 or 3 years. I know that Senator Walker and your Whip Rogers had conversation a couple of years ago in Columbus with a lot of employers who came to a hearing to hear interest in this particular bill. And that's what this bill would intend to do, get it to an actuarial study.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Senator Harbin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Question: is there you mentioned education, and I think one of the things about it today, we really don't educate people about retirement till they get ready to retire, which is really the wrong time to teach them about retirement because they need to start early. I'm just curious, is there anything that could be done to start when they are employed to explain to them, here's what's in this for you and what we will do? I just find that as I deal in the financial area, people just you know, they say I'm 60 years old, I want to retire. And I said, well, let's look at where you are. And you realize they've not done any planning prior to that. And I'm curious, is there anything within either one of these that would allow some type of education process?
Sure, that's an outstanding question. And I know both for our agency as well as ERS, we do what's called new employee orientations to helping them know what their retirement options are so that they can hopefully make those good decisions very own. In addition to new retirement, we do mid-career as well as late career counseling as well along the way, all across the state.
Is that mandatory or is that just kind of show up if you can?
Well, the first part is mostly mandatory as school systems are onboarding new employees, the latter part, but we have progressed even more so into social media, YouTube, a lot of content that's out there to help them make good decisions.
We find this in, at least as I deal with that financial community, those that are 35 and under really aren't thinking about retirement at all, but yet they're the ones that need to think about it early because of how it affects long term. And so that's why I was asking that. I really think financial literacy, I know we have a literacy issue on other things, but financial literacy really affects a lot as well. And I was just curious if what was available to those employees to help them make the right decision going down the road.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
All
it.
right, Senator Walker.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
How's my good friend, Mr. Evans today?
We're doing great.
Good.
Thank you, sir. Hope you're doing
I'm doing well. Some of the testimony I've heard at hearings in the past, I've learned that folks that are in, say, maintenance at a school system or maybe even school nutrition are eligible for TRS if they're in a supervisory position already. So if they supervise other employees, that I think makes them eligible. Did you speak to that already?
Yeah, that's right. You can choose to be, or you are eligible to be a TRS member in one of those capacities if you supervise one or more people. Another point of clarity that I skipped over that relates to that as well, that you would have remembered hearing in the hearings that you held, is that if you're in these positions already and work for the USG, you can be a TRS member. So this actually creates equity among somebody who works in a school system in one of these capacities with someone who does the same job for the university system.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I have a follow-up question?
Yes, sir. We've got 4 bills.
Okay, I'll
but-
be quick.
Yes, sir.
My concern is, and maybe you can help me get past this. PACERS is fully funded by the state of Georgia. There's no, well, the employees pay a small contribution, but there's no local district contribution to the PACERS retirement system. It's funded primarily by the state of Georgia. TRS, on the other hand, there is a very large local contribution to TRS. Isn't that correct, or is that only for the health benefit
There
portion?
is an employer contribution for TRS as well as the employee contribution.
Do you know what percentage of their salary is?
Currently, 20.8 is the employer portion and 6% is the employee.
And is that strictly for the retirement, or does that include the health?
That's just retirement.
So just want the committee to understand, we're talking about a major funding shift from what is now primarily almost wholly really paid by the state of Georgia to a big increase in what the local districts would have to contribute.
Right. We're only hearing this only to get a study and an actuarial on it. So
Therefore, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Appreciate your knowledge and your input too. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. It's very valuable. Anybody else in the audience have anything to speak on this? Did anyone else want to speak? No one had signed up, but wanted to ask. If not, we'll stand for the will of the committee.
Motion do pass if it's the right time.
That's the right time.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? So carry. Thank you. Okay, next, Senator Robertson, how about you come ahead, Senate Bill 216? Your other bill is not on the agenda, but we'll hear it today and not take action, just to get the committee familiar with it if you'd like. And then we can make sure we act on it before Monday. If that'll
Or,
suit you,
or on Monday would be fair enough, Mr. Chairman.
that would be fair enough.
I would be suitable for that, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the hearing. I appreciate that. On SB 216, I think everyone's familiar. We created the Prosecuting Attorneys Qualifications Commission a couple of years ago. And what this does is it moves the director of that particular commission under the Georgia Judicial Retirement System. It's a very simple bill. And I know we hear that a lot, and occasionally when they are, we're even a little hesitant to say that. But that's exactly what this bill does, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is this for the children?
I think every bit of public safety we do in this state is
Yes,
for
sir.
the children
Okay.
at some point.
I
So,
just wanted to make sure.
absolutely.
Anybody have any questions? No questions. Anybody, the will of the committee? I'll entertain a motion on this one. Have a move to pass? Second, what?
Study, right?
This is the study.
Send it
Sending it to
Send it-
actuary, right. Everything we do out here is,
Second.
yes. I'm sorry. Wrong word. All right, have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you let me catch my breath real quick, it's still a little shocked that my classmate who came in with me into the Georgia General Assembly, the senator from the 14th, made a motion to move one of my bills, and I'm just a little yes, just a little dizzy. I just may need a high blood pressure pill here in a minute. On the second piece of legislation for the hearing only, I know Ben from Ledge Council we have the 01 and the 02, and we also have the substitute. And so what I would be presenting today, if it's okay with the chair, is the substitute to that, if that's
If you could
permissible.
just give us a highlight on that
Yes,
bill.
sir, I will. Again, I wish I were more complicated, but I am not. What this bill does is, I don't think anybody here lives in a district where we are not struggling to bring law enforcement officers onto the job. Good, solid law enforcement officers with a benefit package, so that agencies are never encouraged to lower the standard of the quality and the professionalism of the men and women we're doing. What we have discovered throughout the state, and Director Homer Bryson is here from the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund and can attest to it, that currently in this fund, we have several hundred officers, because they do not have retirement systems out in certain counties and certain municipalities. We have several hundred officers that are 65 or older. And I promise you, many, many years ago, if you called 911 in Muskogee County, the Deputy Robertson that showed up to your door was much different than the Deputy Robertson today. I could jump fences and chase people down the middle of the street and run through culverts and all this other stuff.
You could,
I could.
you can't, can you now?
It depends on which ex-wife is chasing me, but
Did you hear that?
But what I will say is the citizens deserve the highest quality of public safety officer. And up here, we can take care of the GBI and Georgia State Patrol and others, but we have very limited capabilities in taking care of the deputy sheriffs and police officers out around the state of Georgia. And so to do that, we're looking for ways to increase the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund, which officers can voluntarily join. Currently, the monthly premium is $30. The legislation I'm presenting would increase that to $40 a month, thereby increasing the overall plan. But this plan needs an influx. And so to create that influx, my proposal is to raise the 911 mobile phone fee by $1 a month for citizens who carry cell phones for the fact that 911 is established for one sole purpose, and that is to get a first responder or help to somebody. And so I felt like this would be the best way, the clearest way to not only support the fund, but also to allow the citizens out in the community to contribute through that, especially with 911 or with cellular telephones.
Sound like a good plan. Anybody have any questions for the author? We don't have a copy, do we?
We do not have a copy of this. You know what? I believe I may have a copy of the substitute. And again, I was understanding this was only a hearing.
It is.
And I do want to point out, I do want to point out to my good friend the 14th and to the rest on the committee, this substitute is a non-physical retirement bill, therefore has no impact. You would not require an actuarial study, I guess is what I'm saying. If Chairman Bryson would come up, or Director Bryson. And I think any questions that anybody has, we can answer, and hypothetical speculation, I think that's more than welcome because of the way the process is going. I think we'd be able to handle that also.
Senator
if there's
McLaren,
any-
you have any other question?
I guess I just want to be clear, we don't have the bill. We're not taking action on the bill
No,
today, are we?
no.
Okay.
Just getting familiar with it.
Yeah, as long as I'm
Well,
not
yeah.
being asked to vote on something that's not in front of me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
When I walked in the door, if that were the case, and I saw you and Chairman Larry Walker down there, I would have turned around and walked back out without a bill. What we're wanting to do, and the chairman's been working for me on this, and I'm gonna tell you what, if y'all have not ever worked with Ben over in Ledge Council, he's incredibly astute at what he does and honest and straightforward. And so the process has been very clear and clean. But really all we're doing is saying, if you look at the firefighter fund, it's primarily funded through home insurance.
Right.
And we see why, because they respond to house fires and things of this nature. Law enforcement, hundreds of thousands of calls, millions of calls every year in Georgia go out through 911 for police service. So we see this as the best way to fund this. And when our loved one needs 911, are we worried about an additional $1 on our cell phone bill? I know I'm not. In rural Harris County, I'm certainly not. But I think it's the best way to do it. And I would like if the chairman will permit briefly to let Director Bryson speak.
I've got a
about the
couple of
impact.
people wanting to ask questions.
Yes,
Just
sir.
hold off. Let's see. Senator Eccles.
Senator, you mentioned chasing criminals and climbing fences, running through culverts when you were younger.
Yes, sir.
Did you wear those boots?
I wore boots, just not these, because fear doesn't matter what kind of shoes you're wearing. You can run fast. And I think the former law enforcement officer sitting next to me can attest to that too.
Okay. Senator Goodman.
Senator, I just will share something with you. I had a friend from back home who is a law enforcement officer and just texted me and he said, Senator, I asked for your support on SB 285 by Senator Robertson. This is very important to all of Georgia law enforcement. Thank you. So you undoubtedly are doing some good work here for our law enforcement folks. I just wanted to share that with you.
I represent a lot of law enforcement officers and they keep a close eye on me. So.
Senator Harbin.
Yes, sir. In my understanding, you're going to go from 30 to 40, and that's paid for by the police officer, correct? And that increases his benefit, but you're filling in the front going of the benefits with the dollar on the 911 call, correct?
Yes, sir. Right now, the monthly benefit is around $1,000.
Yeah.
What we're attempting to do is get that benefit up higher. Theoretically, in the perfect world, you have law enforcement officers that work for $18, $25 an hour in these small municipal police departments or these county sheriff's office, smaller county sheriff's offices. So, and they do not have defined benefit plans. Most of the time it's a hybrid or a 401k.
Yep. And
And so when these officers retire, what we would really like to have, if possible, is somewhere near $2,000 a month. But what we have found out, and I know I made light of it, but when you go into a community and you call for emergency service and somebody shows up and they're 65 and 70 years old with the skills required in law enforcement, with a younger generation that we're having to police, and I'll get in trouble for saying this, I'm sure, by some of those individuals, they're not as capable. It's an extremely dangerous, the only thing worse than a law enforcement officer not showing up is the wrong law enforcement officer showing up. And so that's our fear. Somebody less healthy, somebody less reactive. We had a case out of Washington, DC, where they tend to use deadly force a lot faster than a younger, more capable officer.
Okay. Senator McClary.
So the bill, just make sure I understand, the bill would be a $1 increase on basically everybody's cell phone bill. How much of that now is going to POAB versus how much under the bill would go?
Just a little history on POAB is we've got about 25,000 members, about 16,000 are active members of the fund. So we're paying retirements of north of $5 million a month now. And a number of years ago, and we've heard this for decades, is we were limited who could be members of the fund. And we found a funding mechanism several years ago that would allow county jailers to become members of the fund. And then more recently, we were approached by a 911 operator wanting to join the fund. And so the legislation that you're looking at now created a 0.7.
That we'll be looking at.
Yeah, we'll be looking at,
That's
excuse
right.
me. Well, you will
That's
be
right.
looking at.
Yeah.
So a number of years ago, sort of this process was put in place of pulling fees or a portion of fees from 911 to support those communications officers coming on board. And so this is simply just increasing the percentage that would be coming.
Well, that's what
on.
I'm
It'd
saying.
be
That's my
equivalent
question.
To the dollar.
So my question
Actual-
is how much now versus how much would be under the bill?
The amount that we would anticipate increasing in this would be somewhere north of 100 million a year.
How much now?
Well, now we only get the 0.75, so it's less than 2 million a year.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
We would be going, just to clarify, we would go from our current max benefit payment is $900 a month. I would anticipate this will move us somewhere between $1,200 to $1,400 a month. So it'd be a significant increase for officers, especially those that depend only on POAB and Social Security.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I think another benefit that would happen too is I think when officers who are not members of the fund hear about the tick up, then they will join the fund. And then their $40 will, it really won't increase the benefit, but it makes it more aware to everybody that the fund's available.
Yeah.
And it takes some of the pressure off the county governments and municipal governments and Senator Orrock and I have worked on state pay for everybody for a long time. It would give them some benefit to hopefully lift the morale
Okay.
of our.
And I will mention that 80% of our members are local officers, 20% are state officers. So I think that's important for you to hear that too.
Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all, and we'll get this on our next meeting as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank y'all. Okay, I'm gonna present mine right quick, and then we'll do Senator Hufstetler. Mine is Senate Bill 157, LC 560334S. This allows current and former members of the General Assembly to become a member of the Georgia Legislative Retirement System and obtain credible service. This is for people who may have been in the legislature and opted not to join, and they didn't think they were going to be here, and they come back and they want to buy back. So it would be dollar for dollar, buying back into the legislative retirement system. This just removes the requirement that the member, a former member, may have never been a member of the general legislative retirement system. And it requires a member or former member to have commenced service as a member of the General Assembly on or after January 12, 1981 to be eligible to receive this credible service. I kind of call it the Ellis Black Bill. So,
Right out of
right. So, be glad to answer any questions if there are any on this bill.
And this was passed last year.
And this is to move forward for an actuary.
Or do we have?
Yes, sir. Senator McLaren.
Chairman, I'm looking at this bill and I don't see any imminent need for discussion really.
Okay,
Yeah, it just kind of looks good.
thank you, sir.
I think I would move that we jettison this bill towards an actuarial study.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, he's got a
Oh,
question.
you got a question?
Yes, only because yours truly is, may or may not be impacted, I don't know.
Yeah, you would be able to buy back sometime. You would,
Having served in the House.
having served in the House before.
I see you,
Yeah.
I see it at January 1st, 2022. Cut, before and after, and I see some, maybe it's not the same.
No, it's,
That's a different deal.
that, yeah, that you had served actually after January 12th, 1981. All right, so
Okay, thank you.
Senator Walker.
I second the senator from the 14th motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move that one forward too. Senator Hufstetler, if you'll come forward. Thank y'all. Okay. And we have someone that's going to be testifying on Zoom on yours also, so,
Yeah, I think that's Pew Charitable Trust.
okay,
And I guess it's ex-chairman because you invoked Ellis Black, former chairman, Randy Robertson, and I stayed out 9 years ago. I was chairman of this body, and I stayed on 4 years at Ellis Black's insistent as his vice chair. And really proud of the work this committee's done over the years. You know, our TRS, I was looking at the numbers, Buster had over 80%. We're top in the nation. Jim and Kelly and the ERS do a great job. And
yes, they do.
and it's just a lot of states have holes they're not going to dig out of. And many people have worked over the years to keep it that way. I presented this bill last year for a hearing only because I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't feel like we had it worked out. It's been worked over for about 2 years. But basically what this bill is going to do is let employers with 5 or more employees who don't have a retirement plan, if you've got a retirement plan already, you're not eligible, but it will let them have automatic payroll deductions to build a retirement system that's not offered. They don't have to. The employer is free to opt out of it if they don't want to, but I think it's a good system. And what we're trying to use is the economy of scale of our ERS and the investment options they have to maximize people's retirement and also make it efficient. Somebody that put in about $500 over a period of time that would add up to about $180,000 at a 5% yield, they're going to have about $900,000. At a 7% yield, they're going to have $1.7 million. Just 2% difference over that time almost doubles the money. The magic of compounding to get to 900,000 or 1.7 million, but also the fact that you want the fees at an absolute minimum to maximize people's money. And we've got a great investment group in ERS who's agreed to do this. And we have some really good returns and a good track record that I think these people would be served well to do it. Of course, many groups such as AARP support it. I think you'll hear from Pew Charitable Trust. There's no administrative cost to the employer. They don't have any fiduciary responsibility, but I think it will help attract and retain employees when you've got a system like this in place. With that, I can get into the specifics of it. But, and this is going to take a while. It's not going to be any cost to the state long term. There may be a little bit of startup money, but this will be a self-funding program, no cost to the employers. And I will add too that at least 16 states are already doing this. I never have any bright ideas, whether it's surprise billing or anything else I've done over the years. I find a state that's done it successfully and I try to copy them. Their ideas usually are better than mine, and that's
Who
why I do
is
that.
some of the states that are doing this now?
Well, we can hear from them. I know Missouri and I don't have that list in front of me,
Okay.
but there's quite a few states that are doing that. And I'm sure some of these people will have those
Okay.
numbers. But anyway, I will stop for any questions, or if you want to hear the testimony from others.
Questions or testimony?
Does any member of the committee have any questions? Dr. Harbin?
Thank you. Senator Upstetter, in that I deal within the financial community as far as that portion. Is there a provision for a financial professional to be paid from a standpoint of this? Because somebody has to, if it's a 401k or a simple 401k or whatever it may be, someone's got to put that together. I will tell you that my experience with smaller businesses, they need some type of help in setting up plans and understanding what that plan does. And I understand the economies of scale and using the state funds. I think that's really a good deal from the standpoint. It's like being tapped into somebody who has a huge volume and their cost fees are there. But I also see the need for, I'm gonna call it hand holding. You've got to have somebody that can walk them through. Is this applicable to 401ks, defined benefit plans, or can it be used for any type of plan that an employer may have? Do you know the answers to that?
This is a defined contribution plan. It can be a 401k. It can be a Roth 401k.
Okay.
The economies of scale is that we're going to use the same board as the ERS, but there'll be an additional 3 members appointed by the governor. But we've got a system in place that's making great investments. Basically, they're just tagging on to this.
Right.
The financial professionals are already there. We know the job, the history they've done over the years.
The only thing I would tell you from what I see is you've got the money from the individual, you've got the money going to the investment, but somebody usually has to kind of handhold them to understand what's got to be done. If you're doing the payroll deductions, all of the things that have to be done there. That was my only question. Is there any type of provision for a person to come in and do I'll say it, explaining to them what's going on? And that is the educational piece is a very, very important piece, because people don't understand. They don't understand Roth. They don't understand what the difference is and how that works. I think it's a great idea, but I think also to make it really push, you may look at a provision for somehow for the professional or somebody that's going to bring it. That would bring more money into the plan from that standpoint. Just a thought.
And we can have ERS speak to that if they want to, but we've got that basically system right now from ERS.
Gotcha.
I don't know how many of you are doing the optional 401k. I know I am. And it's the same thing available.
Senator Eccles?
Is this, so when you open, you said use the word but I mean, is it a mandate on small businesses?
It's not a mandate. You can opt out of it, but it is a system. What we did at the state years ago was that we automatically enrolled people in the program. If you want to opt out, you're welcome to, but we found out the contribution rate was much, much higher, 75, 80% versus a very small percent if you didn't automatically enroll people in. And that's what we're doing at the state right now. That's what this system would do. But all you have to do is check a box and say you want to opt out, and you can.
The administrative burden. I mean, a company, my company's not huge, but what do you think about that? I mean, is it going to require these businesses with 5, 6, 7 employees a lot of extra office time?
It's just another
pretty simple.
automatic deduction.
Okay.
You do your state, your local, your social security. It would just be another automatic deduction, but there's no cost on their part.
Senator Elrock?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the author, there's a staggering number, and I don't know if you have all your data with you, but of the percentage of Georgia employees that don't really have a retirement plan of any kind. They're just winging it. To my colleague's point, that they often just lack the time.
They're ending up with Social Security and nothing else.
Yeah, and which is a mighty skinny check. You didn't speak to this, but you could address the fact that this would make it possible. You get in the golden handcuffs on a job if they've got a benefits package, and you kind of stick with that job to keep that package. And then sometimes you don't have the choice of sticking with the job. But in today's job market, the beauty of this is that account can be there for the workforce. That
Yeah, but
and
actually,
when they move on.
because it might not keep you in that particular job because this is portable. It goes with the employee.
That's right.
Wherever they go, it's their money.
Which I think is really a very significant thing, because the last thing you want is massive numbers of aging people that are living on next to nothing. I mean, that's not a win-win for the state's economy or for the family. But so that point is crystal clear in your bill, and that's the way this works. That account doesn't go away if you leave that job.
It's their personal account to take with them throughout life.
Take it
and
with them.
Be there for retirement.
Which is I think, very significant plus. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see now. The person that wants to testify on Zoom, let's go ahead with them.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Williams, Vice Chair Harbin, and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify on Senate Bill 226, the Peach State Saves Act. My name is Kim Olson, and I am the Senior Officer on the Retirement Savings Project at the Pew Charitable Trust. Pew is a nonpartisan, nonprofit public policy organization, and this testimony is a summary of my written comments. Pew supports Senate Bill 226 for the 2 million private sector Georgia workers who currently lack access to a workplace retirement plan. Georgia faces a variety of challenges because workers are not saving enough. Insufficient retirement savings will increase pressure on public assistance programs serving older adults and reduce tax revenue. Results of a study Pew commissioned on the costs of insufficient savings in Georgia indicate, first, the number of Georgia households with residents age 65 and older is expected to increase by 69% by 2040, rising from just under 1 million people to over 1.65 million. Second, the number of working age Georgia households is only expected to increase by 9% over that same period. And as these demographics shift, a shrinking population of working age taxpayers will need to cover the cost for the financially vulnerable. And then third, over the 20-year period ending in 2040, insufficient retirement savings will result in additional state social assistance spending via programs like Medicaid of over $8 billion. But there's good news. If Georgia households saved an additional $170 per month, they could erase this additional taxpayer burden and ensure that retiring households can maintain the living standards they enjoyed during their working years. But how can households reach those goals? The answer is expanding access to workplace savings by creating an automated savings program like Peach State Saves. And we know that such programs are effective. As of today, 17 states have adopted similar savings programs. And in those states where programs are already operating, over 970,000 savers have accumulated over $1.9 billion in assets in just 8 years. Now, Pew has research that shows that these programs work for employers, employees, and the private market. I'll speak to the private market piece, which is that we examined U.S. Department of Labor data from 2013 to 2022 to see how the private market reacted to the state programs. And in every early adopter state, the state program's launch was followed by an uptick in private plan adoption. So state program deadlines appear to be nudging some employers who have not previously offered a retirement benefit to look at the private market for options. And instead of using the state program, some employers do adopt private plans and increase access to even more robust retirement benefits for workers. I do want to note that the program that I am talking about, an automated savings program, creates a requirement for employers in the state to have the state program, to facilitate the state program, or to have their own private plan. So then every employer with 5 or more employees would have something. They would either have the state program or they would have a private sector retirement plan. So that's one thing that seemed like it needed to be clarified based on the text of the bill. And all of these other programs that you're seeing across the country in the 17 states that I've talked about, they all have that same model. So in conclusion, the Peach State Saves program is necessary and timely, and it will benefit employers, workers, and taxpayers. And we support the legislation as written. Thank you so much for this opportunity to provide our views. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any of the committee members? Don't look like we have any questions. thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate you taking your time and being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone in the audience that will wanted to come forward and speak to this? If you, Mr. Potvin, if you would come right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jim Potvin, Executive Director for ERS. And under the terms of this bill, we are the proposed administrators for the state of Georgia for this program. I'd like to try to give you an idea of how, I see this kind of working in terms of the mechanics of it. And in so doing, I hope to answer some of the questions that you folks were asking earlier. So the prior testifier did mention the requirement for all employers to who fit into a certain category to offer this program to their employees. Have to have more than 5 employees, have to have been in business for at least a year. The employees themselves must have been employees since the beginning of the current year. So in other words, we know that there's a lot of turnover and there's a lot of startup businesses that have other things on their mind while they're trying to get themselves going. And we don't want this program to kind of get in the way of any of those very important activities. But at a certain point, when either the business is matured or when the employee has been with the employer for a period of time, then we want them to be offering something. It is not the goal of the program to enroll all Georgians into this program. It is the goal to have all working Georgians have access to a workplace retirement plan of some kind. So if the employer decides that there's a different type of program that is better suited to their particular workforce, then we would encourage them to go ahead and offer that as well. In terms of the administration of the plan, this will be outsourced to a third-party administrator. There are a couple in this, still a relatively new market, but there are a couple of primary third-party administrators that would handle this. So most of the administrative stuff that you were talking about, a lot of the education and those kinds of things would be handled by them. So an employer would have to spend a little bit of time, 15 to 30 minutes, I'm told, kind of signing their company up for the program. That data would then be transmitted to the third-party administrator, along with the information on the employees. The administrator would take over the communication of the program with the employees. The employees would then have the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to be part of the program or not. Further communication would pretty much be initiated in almost all cases by this third-party administrator. On an ongoing basis, what the employer would be required to do is update their employee roles and send payroll information, and of course, remit contributions that any employees make. Again, as was mentioned by the author, this is part of the regular payroll process. We're already doing state and local taxes. We're already doing FICA. We're already doing Social Security. It's just one more piece as part of that already pretty standard process.
Okay.
There are specific provisions in the bill for the types of information that need to be given to the employees. So this education component is not just a nebulous, yes, we're going to make sure they know what's going on, but there are specific items that are in here that kind of state what the objective is in terms of how to properly educate employees so they can make as informed a decision as possible. One other point of clarification I'd like to make is that these plans that would be under this umbrella are IRAs. They are the basic IRAs that we're all pretty familiar with. The bill provides for a Roth IRA as the default. The board will have the opportunity, if they so choose, to also offer a traditional pre-tax IRA as well. It would be subject to all the same rules that are currently in place for us if we go out and get our own IRA. So the income limits for tax deferrals and for Roth contributions and all of that are in place and would be monitored to the best of our ability by the third-party administrator and, of course, the employee themselves as they file their taxes.
Okay, Senator Walker, you have a question?
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Mr. Potman, thank you. I certainly agree that everyone ought to try to have a retirement plan to supplement Social Security, no doubt. My understanding, and this is a very long bill, but it does mandate small employers or large employers to 5 employees or more, it mandates them to do this.
To offer it to their employees.
And there are fines if they don't comply.
Yes.
That's where you lost me there. Thank you.
Understand. I understand. I will tell you that the bill has language to kind of mitigate that. So it talks about, if I go to an employer and say, hey, I don't think you're in compliance, they say, didn't even know I had to do that. That's fine. We're not going to go in and say, oh, you owe $250 per employee. They have a certain amount of time in order to comply. It's not our goal to fine employers. It's our goal to get people enrolled in the program. And so the board will certainly work with employers as much as possible to make sure that's happening. So you're looking for the ones who are just willfully sort of ignoring the requirement or not submitting contributions that were deducted in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're on a time limit. I got to follow up though. Mr. Potvin, the testimony has been that there's no cost to the employer. And I think the more accurate would be the employers aren't required to contribute to the plan, but there certainly is going to be a cost to the employer to administer it, to even do the withholding and transmit the funds to the plan. And I wonder if the employer wouldn't necessarily have to then get a Section 125 document prepared to keep on file. And I mean, it's not without cost totally to the employer, I wouldn't think.
The cost is minimal and it's soft dollar cost. It's not hard dollar cost. We're not asking you to do anything that you're not already doing in terms of payroll. And there are no administrative fees. The third-party administrator will not be paid for by the employer. There's no administrative fee or matching contribution even permitted to be made into an IRA by an employer. So there's no responsibility for benefit amounts or anything like that on the part of the employer.
Thank you.
We're about to run out of time. Was there someone else who wanted to come up and speak? Yeah, we're getting close on time, but thank you. Thank you, Mr. Potvin.
And this will only be 1 minute. I'm Alice Bennett. I am the advocacy manager with AARP Georgia, and we do support Senate Bill 226. I wanted to answer just one question. I know Senator Araki asked about how many small business employees this would impact, and that's 55% of the private sector of Georgia, which is about 2 million people. And the other reason why AARP submits this is because it promotes personal responsibility. It allows individuals the chance to save for their own retirement and be responsible for their own financial future. And it allows the small business to compete where they can go out and level the playing field to retain and attract and retain employment as they move forward. So I know that you're pressed for time. Most of the other information that I was going to share with you, you all have asked some wonderful questions and my information has already been shared. But just know that AARP Georgia is also in support of Senate Bill 226.
Okay,
So
thank you. Senator Harbin, you had a question?
Well, I was more, what I say is this, and I think for the process is it's voluntary, but there is a penalty if you do not participate. Am I correct? And I think I'm going back to
Mandated.
Hmm?
Mandated.
It's mandated as far as that point. Am I correct?
Employees are not required.
Employees are not, but the employer is required to present that to them to whether they want to participate or not.
Correct.
And my other question was, is there an employer match option into the plan? None at all.
No.
Not allowed.
They're not allowed to at all. So basically you're offering a 401k,
A Roth
a
IRA.
Roth IRA, and that's it. Okay, but there is a requirement on the employer. Okay, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
To McLaren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appropriate time, I'd make a motion.
Okay. Let's see, number 12.
12, he's calling on you.
Oh, okay.
Make a motion? Oh, I
Okay.
defer to the senator. I defer to the senator.
So you have a motion from Senator McLaren. And Senator Davenport, was you seconding the motion? Okay. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Wait a minute.
Hand count?
Hand count, all in favor, raise your right hand. Raise your right hand.
In favor.
The other right hand,
Say, when you say
Right
right
hand.
hand, you mean right hand.
That's okay.
the other right hand.
Everybody's got a hand. It's all good.
We got his right hand over.
Four.
You got
It's four.
7?
It's four.
I got 4. Tarika?
Yeah.
4 in favor. All those opposed, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4,
If you want.
5, 4. Okay.
This
Okay, so
would be, it's a state house.
Okay.
Did the chairman vote? How do you vote? Oh, it's 5.
So
Oh, okay.
So it failed. It failed.
No,
Okay. Experience it, right?
Wait, you vote for it?
I voted against
Oh, you
it.
voted against it?
I voted against it.
You announced, just kind of for the room, for the record, that you voted, that it failed.
Okay. I broke the tie, so that
But this-
that bill failed. It did not pass out. And the count was 5-4.
Okay.
Same reason you voted against it, Senator Walker. Okay, thank you. Is that clear enough, council? Okay, thank you. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.